Hey, good afternoon. I'm glad that you have joined us today. My name is Joanna McCall, and I am a reading coach for implementation here in Alabama. And also we have with us Heather Price, who's also an implementation coach. And we're just excited to have you here today as parents to go over what Reading Horizons is and how are you going to help your students with this, your children with this at home. We're all adjusting to a new normal right now, if we can even say normal, because it's not, but we're all adjusting. And so we're here to help you and just to kind of give you an idea of who we are and what we do. So I know we all feel the same way about this, and I love this quote. So I'm going to start with something really positive because there's so much truth in this statement. And that is our mission, is to teach others how to read. The National Reading Panel came up with 5 components of effective reading instruction. And while we address all of these, our focus is down here on the phonemic awareness and phonics, the foundational skills that are needed to develop this comprehension and this automaticity to get to comprehension. And so that's where we're going to focus. And the reading panel said it's not that it's taught, but it's how it's taught. And so it needs to move from simple to complex in nature and also be explicit and systematic. And so we do that, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how that looks. But first, knowing that decoding of the text is half of the comprehension. So your child has to be able to decode that word and understand the language to comprehend. So what are we? Reading Horizons is a method that is based on Orton-Gillingham, and you may be familiar with that term, Orton-Gillingham. It's multisensory. And we move from simple to complex. And so you'll see over here on the right side that here is where we start with letter instruction, and we go all the way down to teaching, all the way to multisyllabic words, and we build in a system that's sequential. But you're not going to have to worry about instructing your child on that and learning how to do all of these different markings, because we do have a unique marking system. We mark what's important for pronunciation and syllabification, but we don't want you to worry that you have to know all of these markings, but I'm just going to show them to you and how it works. So our method, we teach the 42 sounds of the alphabet. We teach 5 phonetic skills and 2 decoding skills. And once we've taught all these, it really unlocks the door for your child to have that understanding of how to read and be able to tackle any words. So I'm going to show you a quick little video on what our method looks like. You know, that was very quick, but hopefully that gave you a little bit of a synopsis of what the method is and having a little bit of an idea of what your students are doing with it. So we have a blended model in that we have the software and the direct instruction going on. So when the teacher is doing the direct instruction, the kids are getting the lesson, and then they go to the software and they can have the same lesson in the software. And what's going on right now with us at Reading Horizons is we're going to have live lessons that are happening every day in different chapters. So your students can log in and attend a live lesson with one of us teaching the lesson. And I'm going to give you some tips of what you can do during that live lesson to support your student. And also we have the software, which is where Heather's going to cover with you today. So knowing that those two work together to inform your student of how well they're doing, and also to give them that support that they need to move through. So the way that it's taught every day is that there is a review, instruction, dictation, and transfer piece. And this is called our core four. So these four elements happen in the lesson every day. So the instruction begins with a review, which is really just to prime their brains and get them ready to go into the lesson. Then the instruction will take place. So when they're joining a live, you'll see the teacher or one of us doing that. In the dictation piece, this is that multisensory piece, and this is where the students will be writing. And so I'm going to talk to you about some things you can do during that writing time to assist your child. And then the last piece is called the transfer. And this is where they're actually getting into connected text and reading words after the skill has been taught to them. So each day in the lesson, it's usually about 30 minutes. And so when you log in and join, it's going to be about a 30-minute lesson. And this is what's going to take place during that lesson time. So in the dictation piece, this is our multisensory piece where they're hearing the word, they're saying it, they're writing it, they're reading it. And it's repetitive. They're going to hear it, say it, write it, read it. And this is going to allow those students to make those connections in their brain and build those pathways. So this is what dictation will look like. So
tent, tent. Turn around and write your word. I use a tent when I go camping.
Okay, so, and you saw in that she was giving the word to the students and they were taking it to their ears and then they were saying it back to her. So this piece is going to be really important for the students, that we know that they're doing this at home. And when they're doing that, I want you to think about how you can help them and some things that you can have at your house to assist with that. When they transfer at the end of each lesson, like I talked about earlier, they're going to transfer. So they're going to actually see it and then they're going to read it. So what they're going to do is they're going to have, these are called transfer cards. And so each lesson has this transfer card on it. And so there will be a link for you to print off any materials that you need. And these may be on there, or they may just be on the screen for the student to read. So the teacher or instructor will read the letters either going across or going down. And so this is where they're going to get in and they're going to read. You're going to see these right here are called slides. And this is just the beginning of the word. So this is also called a bigram. It's just two letters or sliding together to make that initial sound with the vowel. And the vowels start, and there's short vowels here. So, and the students will see words that have this asterisk by it, and that is a nonsense word. So nonsense words are not real words, but they are really good indicators of, do they know the patterns of the words? So when they come to these unfamiliar words, can they decode the words? So you're going to see these transfer cards every day, and we want you to be able to help your student by reading the cards with them or having them read it aloud to you. So during that lesson, I want you to make sure that when you get started that there's a place that there's not a lot of distractions for them, maybe in a quiet room, just so that they can have their focus on the lesson. And in that review part, that's that quick 3 to 5 minutes. So if you will, just sit next to your student and have them read aloud what they see on the screen and listen for them. There may be a game that's being played for the review, so you can just kind of check for their understanding here to see if they've mastered the skill from the previous day. In the instruction, this will be all the instructor. So if you're with your student here, you just sit back and watch and enjoy with them. When it gets to the dictation, this is where you're going to need to have some materials ready, and I'm going to show you on the next slide what materials you might need. So during this dictation piece, this is going to be the active part. This is where you're going to want them to stand up, maybe behind a table or at a desk or somewhere where they can stand to actually receive that and have that multisensory piece in place. And then finally in that transfer, which is what I just showed you, the transfer card before, I want you to listen as the student practice reading those, but also transfer could be decodable readers that we have. They could transfer using a lot of different modes. So not just that transfer card, but transfer into other areas as well. And of course, you know, we want them reading to you every single day because there's nothing that can replace that. So make sure that you're having your student read with you daily. When you're thinking about what do I need to get set up for this to take place? If we're doing this, if we're joining the lab lessons, what are some things I need? Typically in the classroom, the students have a whiteboard and then expo marker to write their words. And you saw that in the dictation practice when she was given the word tent. Tent, the kids turned and they wrote on the board or they wrote on a whiteboard like this. And we know you probably don't have those whiteboards at home. You can also get like a transparency where you put your sheets in and they can write on that. And you may have one at home. I know Target has them. Not saying that you need to go to Target and get out, but this is what we want them to write on if they have it. And expo markers if you have one. If you don't, you can use paper and pencil, and you can have crayons to use to write with. So maybe write the words in one color, and then when they come back and they're doing the markings, do the markings in another color so they can differentiate between the word and how they've marked the word or proven the word. So this would be what they would write on. You can also have them write, if you have expo markers, you can have them write on a cookie sheet and then just erase it, or even a plate. And these expo markers are erasable. So using the plate or the cookie sheet is also a great way for them to write. You're probably wondering what these socks are for up here, but these socks, and I'm sure you probably have several socks that don't have a mate, have them use that as an eraser so they can put that on their hand and erase what they've written during the dictation. Also, maybe they have a glove that they could use the glove to also erase with, and tissues work just as well. So when your child is doing logged in and doing these live lessons, these are going to be ways that you can support them and help them. We don't feel like we want you to get boggled back down by how do I teach this method and all these markings are so different than what I'm used to. The instructor will take care of all of that. We just want you to be familiar with how that looks and what it's going to look like every day in this new virtual teaching that we're in. Heather is going to talk to you about the software piece and how you can help with your student or your child at home with the software. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
Yeah, so if you're planning to participate in the live sessions, that's excellent. We really hope that you do. Your teacher may be also Zooming with you daily or weekly, doing lessons that way. So that's another way that you can get some instruction. But if that's not happening for your student at all, you can still log into the software and get the lesson that way. So I've said to teachers so many times that having the software in your classroom is like having another teacher. And that's never been so important as it is now, because you have a teacher in your house. So the students can still get the lessons through the software. So Joanna mentions having a quiet place, especially in the software. The students may be asked to identify sounds and they're going to be asked to spell words. So they need to be able to hear what is being said on the software so that they don't make mistakes, because they are being tested for mastery on each lesson. So headphones may be something that you want to consider for that as well. So I'm going to share my screen. And while I'm doing that, let's talk about the age of the student and how much time they can actively be on the software. For a kindergarten student, they may only be able to sit for 15 to 20 minutes at a time. You wouldn't want to sit them on the software for hours. So that could range anywhere from a third grader. They may be able to actively work in the lessons for 30 to 45 minutes. So I'm first going to go through the discovery. That is for grades kindergarten through third grade. And so after that, I will go through the software for the Elevate students, and that would be 4th through 12th grade. So we just want to make sure that you have them sitting at times that they can manage, and they can't sit for hours at a time. So you can break that up throughout the day, or if you just want to have a schedule and they're just going to log in once a day, that would be really, really good as well. The teacher may be assigning lessons to them, but if not, they're just going to log in and click the next button, and it will take them to the next lesson. So your student's screen will look like this when they log into rhdiscovery.com. If you don't have login information, contact your teacher and see if you can get that information so that your student can log in at home. So right now, I'm just going to log in as a fake student, just to show you what it looks like. And it's going to ask, I have it muted, but it's going to ask, is this your name? And your student's name should appear here. So make sure that it's your student's name that appears there, and they will click yes. So when the students get in here, it looks like a clubhouse. And the main feature that you need to know about, you don't have to be an expert at the software as a parent. The students are going to get the lesson the same as Joanna said. They're going to learn something new. They're going to have a chance to practice those new skills through spelling, through the marking system. And then after that, they'll have an opportunity to transfer those skills. So they'll be reading things in context. So the lesson flow is the same as if the teacher were teaching the lesson. So when the students click the next button, it takes them to the lesson. So that teacher's going to teach them something new, they're going to practice, and then they're going to transfer. So we want the students spending most of their time clicking the next button because this is where they're getting the lesson. So that's one thing as a parent that you may need to be aware of, is that they are clicking this button to actually go through the lessons. But there are some other really cool features in here that the students can do to take a break from the lessons. So I'm going to go through each one of them. One of them is the library section. So the students have access to books in their library. If they're lighting up, that means they have access to them, meaning these are not lighting up for some of your students because they're not in that chapter yet. So if they're lighting up in this way, then they can access that book. If it has a gold dot there, it means the student's already read that book, but it's okay. They could read it again. And actually, once they've read the book, there will be a microphone feature, a headphone feature here. I'm going to unmute this so you can hear. So you see the headphones here? If they read the book once on their own, now it will read it to them. Can you guys hear that?
No.
Here we go.
Ants. An ant is not a big bug. It has 6 legs.
Okay, but the first time they read the book, they'll have to read it on their own. So I'm going to go back to the library. Again, if it's a gold dot, they've already read that book before. So when I go back to Clubhouse, I can go into the vocabulary section here, and I'm just going to show you the features there. So you might want to set a goal as a parent to, we're going to add 5 words to our vocabulary word wall every day. Again, these are lighting up. I have access to all of them. Your students are only going to have access to which chapter they've completed so far. So I'm just going to go into chapter 2 and click next.
Spell the word you hear. This.
I'm going to spell the word and then check it.
Good job.
Now prove the word.
Magnificent.
So this is the marking system.
Sensational.
This.
They earn a
A
coin.
word to refer to a person, thing, or idea. This is my dog, Bonzo.
So then it's going to give it to them as a definition and in a context. So when I go back to my word wall, then there it is. So that's another cool feature that is in the Clubhouse. The students earn coins for doing the lessons, for being in the vocabulary sections, for reading books, and they can use those coins to buy things in the store. So we want to make sure that they're not spending all of their time in the store, but it's located here, and that's how they get to decorate their clubhouse. The last feature is the games. They also use coins here. They can use 15 coins to play for 15 minutes. So again, that's a little break from the lesson, but we want to make sure that they're not spending all of their time in the games. So the main button that you need to know as a parent is to have them to click next, and that's going to take them through the lessons. So now I'm going to log in as an RH Elevate student. So when they log in, their screen looks like this because it's for older students, and so it looks a little bit more age appropriate here. They have pretty much the same features that the Discovery software has. So instead of clicking next, the students will click go, and that will take them to their lesson. They took a diagnostic test in the beginning of the year or whenever they started the program, and that is kind of prescriptive and adaptive to where the students need to be. So when they click go, it's going to take them to that next lesson. So when you click here, the library, it's the same thing. One thing that is different for Elevate students is that they have a library requirement. They're required to read 20 points worth of library passages for each chapter. So if you see your students here, it's okay because they have that requirement. They have to read so many passages per chapter. They can sort by category, so they can read passages that they're interested in. They can sort by status, if I've read this before, or by difficulty, and they're sectioned into bronze, silver, and gold passages for difficulty level. At the end, there are questions for them to answer. When the students finish the lesson, the teacher receives a message on how they do. So that's not anything as a parent that you'll need to worry about. Those messages go to the teacher. Same thing here, they have this vocabulary section. They also have a vocabulary requirement that they have to do so many words per chapter. So I'm just going to pick a word here.
Type the word you hear. Ready? Brag.
Oh. And then I'm going to check it.
Correct. Now mark the word.
So I'm going to mark my R
Nicely done.
blend, and then I'm going to mark my
Very good.
vowel with an X.
Brag. To talk about oneself with too much pride. To boast. I don't like listening to people brag about how much money they make.
So the same thing as the Discovery student, they're going to mark it, they're going to get a definition of the word, and they're going to hear it in a context sentence. There's also a dictionary feature where they can look up words at any time, and they just type in the word and it provides a definition for them. They also have games. They earn badges as they progress through the lessons. There is a pronunciation tool here for them. And here's the student report. Just wanted to show you really quickly. As a parent, you could pull this up and it kind of shows you how they're doing in each section. So this is how they're doing in the lessons when they click go. This is how they're doing in the vocabulary library, and then as they're taking assessments. So just getting your students on here is like having a teacher at your house. It's going to give them the full lesson, and the learning can just continue. So take advantage of this. Again, if you do not have login information, contact your child's teacher and let us know if we can help you in any way at Reading Horizons. I'm going to stop share and send it back to Joanna.
Okay, no, we're just thankful that you joined us today, and know that we have lessons happening daily. So if you go to readinghorizons.com, you can click on those live lessons and your child can get on that software daily, like Heather did, go through with you. But we know that we're just kind of all navigating these waters together, and we're grateful for you and for your devotion to helping your child succeed with reading. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.